What is going on, everybody? It's Friday, and you know what that means. It's time for another edition of the 3D. Hello again. I am Drew Dickinson. Thank you so much for listening, wherever you may be. Of course, the Drew Dickinson Diatribe, where I talk all things Manchester United, drops every Friday afternoon right here on the Soccer Down Here network. Subscribe, like, share, do all the fun things on your social media accounts. I know I appreciate it, and I know the brass with the 8 SDH network appreciate it as well. So let's dive right in, shall we? Last Saturday, United were at home, where they welcomed in 19th place Burnley. And once again, mistakes, lack of effort, so on and so forth, cost the home team, Manchester United, 2 crucial points. It was, pretty, how do I say this? Pretty much a Manchester United game where they dominated in sequences. First 15 minutes came straight out the bat. Shots. Garnacho set up by Bruno at the far post. Beautiful volley. Just sails it over the bar. I mean, it was time in and time out. That happened 3 or 4 times in the game where it just dominated like 15 to 20 minute intervals. But it just wasn't pretty. 79th minute, Anthony got in behind the Burnley defense and scored, what really was a terrific goal. You go back and you slow that down and watch the replay. I don't see how he was able to find the back of the net. I mean, his body form was about folded in half. His head was almost touching the ground. He had zero vision towards the goal, and then he ends up using his left foot to put it in the far post. Just brilliant. But as I mentioned before, mistakes have killed this team all season, and no different was it last weekend. Andre Onana, who I have been very vocal, I've praised over the last few months, particularly this entire calendar year of 2024, and deservedly so. He's been fantastic, but he's made 2 massive mistakes in back-to-back games, resulting in goals. This time, an 87th minute penalty kick, similar to the no call at the beginning of the season against Wolves, where he just came out a little sporadically. Casemiro was there. Casemiro, I guess, didn't hear Onana. Onana didn't make the call in the correct amount of time. And Onana just took the player absolutely out once again. And it resulted in a penalty kick. Like I said, 87th minute to give Burnley their much needed point. And for a team like Burnley, a point does everything. Okay. But a point for a team like Manchester United at this stage in the season, it just doesn't help. Okay. It doesn't help. There was an announcement that came this week. The Premier League will not get that coveted 5th UCL spot. So that just, kiss that goodbye for Manchester United. And now it's time to start focusing not only the FA Cup final against City on the 25th, but I think they can, steer your focus toward maybe capturing that final Europa League spot. Is that still on? But for something that fun, that rewarding, for something like that to even happen, you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot continue to drop points to bottom of the table teams at home. Burnley had the upper hand in passes completed and possession last Saturday against Manchester United at Old Trafford. Manchester United had 27 shots, 10 on target, to Burnley's 16 shots and 7 on target. I guess, Casemiro, the partnership of Casemiro and Harry Maguire, not so bad at all, because you get a Varane and a Harry Maguire center back partnership, which we've seen, and you're getting 20, you're getting the same amount of shots that United put up. So it's safe to see, or fun to see, Casemiro and Harry Maguire playing well together, but obviously not well enough. To add more drama, Scott McTominay, who came on in the second half, not healthy. He left injured, and it didn't look good. McTominay is going to look to be out for an extended period of time. Someone like McTominay will not drag out an injury. He's a warrior, and someone like him banging the ground and being out for a long period of time, it's serious. Not like a lot of these other prima donnas who get injured and just sit off to collect their 300,000 pounds a week. But I digress. Unfortunately for Manchester United, though, the injuries just keep piling up. The one real bright spot for the game against Burnley was once again Bruno Fernandes. And, the captain, he deserves so much more. His effort just has not gone unnoticed. I wish, 9 to 10 other players would play like that as well. I can argue Harry Maguire is putting the badge before himself as well. And, I can tell you right now, guys, there's going to be a massive, massive overhaul coming this summer. I can just feel it. There's going to be plenty of time before we can get into that type of discussion. But, there's just question marks. Casemiro looks completely uninterested. Varane, always injured. Folks, that's almost £1 million a week in wages just from those two players. And speaking of wages, you've got Sancho, Martial, another £500,000 a week, almost £550 a week in wages, and they don't even play. You got Sancho who was just so poor for 3 years in a United shirt, pisses and moans about the manager, who gave him 3 months off to find form, came back and basically refused to apologize for the manager for throwing him under the bus. Now goes over to Dortmund and shines in the Champions League. People want to complain about it. You may mistake me for complaining. I'm complaining about the wages and the fact that he doesn't show up for Manchester United. But to the Sancho situation, him playing good is only a good thing for United because that fee only gets bigger with Dortmund rumored to want to make it a permanent move. Yes, please. But back to it, Sancho, Martial, 550K a week. They don't even play. Rashford, a huge dip in form this season, almost on 400K a week himself. I think there's about, I want to say 50 to 60 million a year that United could potentially decrease off of their wage bill by this quote unquote massive overhaul that could happen. And I hope it happens. But as mentioned before, that is another discussion for another time. With the draw to Burnley, Manchester United currently sit in 6th place, 1 point above 7th place Newcastle, and, right now, only 6 points behind Tottenham Hotspur, who, mind you, they've dropped 6 points in back-to-back games. The 3-2 game last weekend against Arsenal, and most recently, the game against Chelsea, where Spurs lost 2-0. And it's just so frustrating for me to think, where would Manchester United be just in the last, 5 or 6 games, the points that were dropped, the leads that were lost. United are 6 points off of that Europa spot. They could be in it. They could be comfortably in it now if bonehead mistakes and lack of effort, again, so on and so forth, had not caused just massive, massive blunders. With that being said, on Monday, the boys travel to Selhurst Park to take on a Crystal Palace team that has 40 points and are currently 14th place in the table. The Eagles, though, they're not an easy task, home or away. Lots of youth. Dean Henderson in the goal from United, and of course, led by the youngster Michael Olise, who is rumored, top target for Manchester United this summer, which, I can comfortably say to myself and to you guys, I don't know if he should be the top target this summer because of, positions that are needed a lot more, but he could bring a completely different standard to Manchester United on the wing. And, you do need depth. I feel that we need a couple more wingers because, The future of Antony isn't certain. The future of Ahmad isn't certain. He just doesn't seem to be in much favor for Eric Ten Hag, and we don't even know if Ten Hag is gonna remain at the helm. So many questions for Manchester United coming into the summer regarding the signing of Michael Olise, because apparently we know INEOS are a big fan. Jen Ratcliffe, INEOS, big fan of Olise. Last time that Crystal Palace and Man United clashed was back in September of 2023, where Palace ran United all over the field. They defeated United 1-0 thanks to a 25th minute Joachim Andersen goal. It was a completely different Manchester United team then. You had a healthy Mason Mount. Facundo Pellistri started on the left side. Victor Lindelof started at center back. Sofyan Amrabat started at left back. They all got the start that day, and things they've changed. Lindelof has been injured for forever. Mount been injured for forever. Amrabat, I just don't know. He's injured off and on, but just never seemed in favor of Ten Hag, who just had to have him. Huge £10 million loan fee to get Amrabat in, and just hasn't really got many minutes. It's crazy. But the injury crisis, talking about things that have changed, the injury crisis has not. Bruno Fernandes just this week spotted wearing a hard cast on the right hand. But, let's just get things straight. Bruno, I fully expect Bruno to play 90 minutes. So don't worry about Bruno Fernandes. Don't worry about that absolute warrior. The boss, Eric Ten Hag, has said Marcus Rashford's injury hasn't fully healed yet, whatever that means. I guess that's self-explanatory. McTominay, mentioned before, appears he's going to be out long-term. I really wouldn't expect McTominay for the rest of the season, barring a miracle. And we already know the other laundry list of injuries, so I'm not going to get into that. The likes of Lindelof, Varane. And again, it just frustrates me, so I'm not going to get into it anymore. Hopefully, there's some good news on Lisandro Martinez and maybe Luke Shaw here coming soon. But like I said, I do expect Bruno Fernandes to play. I expect him to captain that United team and boss that midfield at the number 10 with the 18-year-old Kobe Mainoo playing up under him. I think Kobe will play the 6, and he will facilitate and try and get the ball at the feet of who I hope will start next to him, and that's Mason Mount, who will help distribute up to Bruno Fernandes and help facilitate that defensive midfield with Kobe Mainoo. But I don't expect Mount to sit back and play much defense. If there is someone who could play the 8, I would expect Bruno to possibly do that, to drop back and get the ball at his feet a little bit more, and Mount more experienced playing higher up the pitch. But again, who knows? But I do think Mason Mount should get the start on Monday at Selhurst Park against Crystal Palace. Casemiro, Harry Maguire. I'd like to see them back as a center back partnership, barring any sort of miracle, behind the return of Lisandro Martinez or Johnny Evans. But I don't know. Rumors are that they have started training on the grass this week. They were supposed to start training with the first team, but you just don't know. Diogo Dalot having a fantastic season. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, both wingbacks. Real quick before we get a little bit further into this, before we finish up, really. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, something just seems off to me with him. He's just not been the same player he was last season. He fell out of favor with Ten Hag. He favored Dalot and Luke Shaw. Injuries hit. Wan-Bissaka worked extremely hard, earned his spot back, and became in favor of Eric Ten Hag. But one thing about Wan-Bissaka is it's frustrating. I was hoping he'd continue to evolve. He evolved extremely well last season, wasn't pretty, but was effective going forward, but just hasn't capitalized off that. And I'm not sure if he's not fit. It wouldn't surprise me, but there's really nobody else that Ten Hag has to put there. And again, it just brings me back to a point we talked about a month ago, sending Sergio Reguilon back from his loan spell. And now I believe he's at Brentford or Brighton. And, it's Brentford, I believe. And he's playing well. Only bright spot for that team. But anyways, I digress. And Alejandro Garnacho, Rasmus Højlund, and Anthony playing as that front three. Should be Ahmad but I just feel, and it's obvious that with their past from Ajax, Erik ten Hag just trusts in the Brazilian, which appears to be a little bit more than Ahmad. United have a real good opportunity, like we discussed before, to get closer to that Europa League spot. Gotta have 3 points, need a complete performance, mistake-free soccer. Ten Hag still trying to convince INEOS that he is the manager of the future for Manchester United. So lots at stake. Lots at stake for players, manager, club. Spurs play Liverpool at Anfield. Newcastle play Burnley at the Turf Moor. So again, massive opportunity for United to pounce on these 3 points, with the teams breathing down their throat and the team that they're chasing playing away against 2 tough opponents. And United could separate themselves from the Magpies and close that 6-point gap on Tottenham. But you just never know what Manchester United team will show up. Me personally, I can't wait to find out, because after Palace, Arsenal come to town and Newcastle come to Old Trafford back to back. And of course, with the FA Cup final at the end of the month. So a huge month of May for the red side of Manchester. That's going to do it for me today on this busy Friday. Not just for me, but probably everybody with the Soccer Down Here network. But quick plug, Deep South Wrestling performing live tonight at the Gwinnett Stripers game in Gwinnett County at Coolray Field. Yours truly will be on the call. Matches start at 6 p.m. Got a few good matches, a couple of big promos, and a $25,000 battle royal to call it a night. So come on out and support your local independent wrestling company. That's Deep South Wrestling. We are wrestling. We are Atlanta. We are Deep South. But back to it. I can't thank you all enough for listening to the Drew Dickinson Diatribe. Easy for me to say. The 3D, which drops again every Friday right here on the SDH network. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we will speak to yous on Monday.